The hum of the garage fridge was louder than her voice through the floorboards, but not by much. I'd been elbow deep in a '67 Broncos engine block since dinner. Grease on my knuckles, bourbon in a coffee mug, the kind of Thursday night that used to feel like peace. Then the floor started vibrating. Not from the classic rock playlist I keep for welding, but from Anna's stiletto heel slamming hardwood above me. "You told me this would be simple," she hissed, her words sharp enough to cut through 2 layers of drywall. Funny thing, I hadn't said a damn word to her since Tuesday. I found the hotel key card 3 hours later, nestled in the pocket of her cream-colored blazer like a snake in a silk nest. Not the plastic kind you toss at checkout. This was one of those sleek metal ones from the Marriott downtown, still cold from her car's AC vent. She'd worn that jacket to her client dinner last week. The same dinner where she'd come home smelling like cedar and saffron, a combination I now recognized as the lobby scent at the Renaissance Suite. Her phone lit up on the kitchen island while she was upstairs screaming at God knows who. A notification from Open Table, reservation for 2, at that overpriced French place she'd mocked me for wanting to try on our anniversary. Table 14, 8 p.m., under the name Emily. Her sister's name. Clever girl. I didn't confront her. Not when she stormed downstairs smelling like Panic and Chanel No. 5. Not when she caught me staring at the blazer hung too neatly by the door. She opened her mouth first, that defiant chin tilted like I was a customer arguing over labor costs. "If you're going to accuse me of something, just..." "Table 14's got a wobbly leg," I said, sucking bourbon through my teeth. "Tell your client to ask for a wedge. They keep him behind the hostess stand." The color drained from her face in real time, pink to parchment under those artfully highlighted cheekbones. I watched her brain short-circuit, that calculus women like her do when deciding between tears and fury. She chose fury. "You followed me? You paranoid piece of..." "Didn't need to." I held up the key card, watching her pupils constrict. "This was in the jacket you wore to the fake dinner with your fake sister. Pro tip: real Emily's allergic to shellfish. Your reservation had lobster bisque. She lunged for it. I let her have the damn thing, metal edge slicing my palm as she snatched it. "You're pathetic," she spat, chest heaving like she'd run a marathon. "Snooping through my things because you can't handle that I have a life beyond your grimy little..." The garage door opener beeped in my back pocket. I'd rigged it years ago to chirp whenever someone entered the code. 11:47 p.m. Late for working late. Her phone buzzed again on the counter. A text preview lit up the screen. "Miss you in that red thong. Tomorrow same time?" Anna followed my gaze and did something fascinating. She smirked. Not the guilty flinch I'd braced for, but a full-blooded, venomous grin. "Go ahead," she dared, stepping between me and the device. "Read it. Call him. Do whatever you think you need to do." I reached past her for the bottle of Woodford Reserve instead. Poured 2 fingers into my mug. "Marriott's charging $40 a night for self-parking now," I said, toasting her frozen silhouette. "Might want to expense that." Her scream chased me down the hall. Not words, just raw animal noise. I packed the go bag I'd kept hidden behind the water heater since Jake left for college. $8,327 cash, my grandfather's watch, and the signed title to the Bronco. Left her wedding ring in the empty socket wrench case, where she'd never think to look. The last thing I heard as the garage door rolled shut was the sound of her stiletto cracking the screen of her precious iPhone. Couldn't tell if she was destroying evidence or throwing a tantrum. Didn't care. The Bronco's engine roared to life on the first try. A small mercy, or maybe an omen. I'd rebuild everything else from scratch. The stench of mildew hit harder than the bourbon withdrawals. I'd rented the garage off Route 52, a cinder block tomb with a roll-up door that screeched like a banshee. Previous tenant left behind a cot, with cigarette burns shaped like the Big Dipper and a mini-fridge that hummed the national anthem off-key. Perfect. Anna's text started day 3. 7:02 a.m. "We need to talk." The timestamp told me everything. She'd waited until precisely 2 minutes after her lover's usual morning commute. I propped her message next to the Bronco's carburetor, using her desperation as a coaster for my WD-40. By week 2, she'd upgraded to voice notes. I played them through the shop speakers while sanding rust off the Bronco's frame. You're really going to throw away 26 years over a misunderstanding? Her laugh track sob cracked at 1:14, amateur hour. I timed how long it took her to mention the house. For messages. The life insurance policy. 7. Our dead Cocker Spaniel's ashes in the mantle urn. 12. The Bronco fought me harder than she did. Found a mouse nest in the air filter, chewed up pages from a 1998 Cosmopolitan advice column on keeping him guessing. I torched it with my welding kit, watching 50 ways to manipulate a man curl into ash. Her 3 a.m. Hail Mary almost worked. Jake's coming home next month. Don't make me tell him you abandoned us. Our son's name clanged in my ribs like a wrench dropped from a lift. I nearly texted back. Nearly. Instead, I gutted the Bronco's dashboard. Found her 2017 parking ticket wedged behind the radio. $125 fine for blocking a hydrant. Dated April 23rd. The day she'd claimed her Mercedes was in the shop. The day I'd driven her to her yoga retreat. The day he'd parked his Audi in my spot at the dealership. I framed the ticket under grease-stained glass. Hung it where the rearview mirror would go. When the city condemned the garage's bathroom, I pissed in oil drain pans and dumped them behind the competing Jiffy Lube. When winter snapped the space heater's last coil, I slept in the Bronco's cab wearing 3 Carhartts and her abandoned silk scarf, still reeking of that goddamn Marriott cologne. The final text came through as I welded the roll cage. You win. I'll sign whatever you want. Attached, a photo of divorce papers on our granite breakfast bar. Her signature looped defiantly under petitioner. She'd used the pen I'd bought her for closing her first salon. Mont Blanc. Meister stuck. I dipped the pen tip in antifreeze and mailed it back. The Bronco's engine turned over on the first crank. A throaty growl that shook dust from the rafters. I revved it 3 times. Once for every decade I'd wasted. Then I drove it straight through the rotting garage door, with splinters raining like confetti. Left the corpse of that shack in my rear view. Anna's unread please glowing green on the passenger seat. Some silences aren't empty. They're gunpowder. The knock came during a brake fluid transfusion, 11:37 p.m., because respect for boundaries died long before our marriage did. Emily stood haloed in the garage's flickering neon, clutching a Tupperware of what smelled like Anna's infamous vodka rigatoni. Her eyes performed a perfect Oscar reel, wide in concern, lip quiver, single tear duct activation. She's not eating, Emily blurted, thrusting the container at me like a sacrificial offering. You need to fix this. I let the silence stretch until it snapped. 3 weeks in this grease-stained purgatory had taught me more about human tells than 30 years of marriage. Her left eyelid twitched at 12 seconds. Right index finger tapped the Tupperware lid at 19. Fix what? I asked finally, wiping my hands on a rag soaked in transmission fluid. The casserole? Needs more arsenic. Her laugh sounded like a chokehold. Same old Bryan. Always joking when things get real. The purse caught my eye as she accidentally dropped her keys, a Bottega Veneta looped over her wrist, the buttery leather clashing with her Dollar General nails. Last I checked, $4,800 bags didn't fit on a salon manager's salary. Unless someone had started cutting hair with gold-plated shears. Nice accessory, I nodded at the bag. Client leave it as a tip? Emily froze mid-reach for my arm. Consignment shop find. She recovered, too fast. You know how I love a good thrift. Funny. I popped the Tupperware lid, inhaling fake concern and burnt garlic. Anna's been hitting those same shops. Found a receipt last month, $16,000 wire transfer to something called Studio Eclat. Her knuckles whitened around the Bottega's chain. That's my new salon venture. Anna believed in me. Believed enough to drain our helic. I flicked rigatoni sauce at the Bronco's fender. Strange timing. Your venture launched right after Dad's will cleared probate. The color drained from her face like oil from a pan. She'd forgotten I'd built Anna's first salon bookshelf and memorized her QuickBooks password while installing the damn thing. Emily rallied, leaning into the Bronco's doorframe. This isn't about money. It's about family. Jake called me yesterday, said he's worried you've gone off the deep end. I palmed the lug wrench from my back pocket, watching her flinch. Jake's got my number. Unlike his aunt, who's been texting him from a 614 area code since July. Her gasp was almost convincing. I would never. Save it. I tossed her the wrench, grinning when she fumbled the catch. Next time you impersonate my kid, remember he texts in all caps and uses approximately 7 emojis per sentence. Your punctuation was prison guard neat. She backed toward her leased Lexus, Bottega bag swinging like a pendulum of guilt. You're paranoid. Sick. Anna's better off. Tell your accountant to check Studio A-Class LLC filings. I called as her engine roared to life. Might want to amend those taxes before the state realizes your high-end salon is a glorified broom closet. The Tupperware went into the hazardous waste bin, right next to the love letters I'd found zip-tied to the Bronco's undercarriage last week. Same lavender stationery Emily used for Jake's birthday cards. Same loopy handwriting that had signed Anna's forged divorce papers. I let the garage door stay open after she fled, night air swirling with the scent of overpriced leather and impending collapse. The Bronco's new ignition switch arrived tomorrow. So did the private investigators' report on Studio A-Class investors. Revving the engine, I smiled at the Bottega's phantom shimmer in my rearview. Emily always did mistake rust for patina. The safe deposit box smelled like betrayal and mothballs. I'd cracked Anna's birthday, her mother's maiden name plus 1987 on the third try. Inside, ledger pages from her salon investment, wrapped in a silk scarf reeking of Emily's peach body spray. Every withdrawal aligned with Emily's Instagram hashtag Wanderlust posts, $5K to Bora Bora during her spiritual retreat, $8,000 to Santorini when she rediscovered herself with a timeshare salesman. Jake's call came as I was cross-referencing wire transfers with Emily's tan lines. Trucks making a noise, he grunted, all teenage disdain and busted transmission. I heard the lie in his voice, the same hitch he'd had at 6, asking if monsters lived in his closet. The Ford F-150 sat outside my garage like a wounded animal, passenger door sporting a fresh dent shaped like a martini glass. Jake slouched against the tailgate, sleeves rolled to hide track marks from his forklift job. Just needs a tune-up, he muttered, kicking gravel. I popped the hood. The air filter screen sabotage clogged with glittering pink sand identical to Emily's tacky nail polish. Where'd you last park this thing? I asked, picking grains from the carburetor. N.M. Salon. Jake's shrug was too casual. She offered free detailing. The pieces clicked like a torque wrench. Emily's generosity required access to Jake's registration and his home address. I feigned focus on the spark plugs while palming the GPS tracker lodged near the battery terminal. Same model the dealership used on repo jobs. Same faint smell of Emily's vanilla rot perfume. Tell your aunt her detailing skills suck, I said, tossing Jake the sand-caked filter. This is Bahamian carbonate. $20 says her salon's security Kim shows her dumping it in here June 12th. Jake froze. How'd you know I was there that day? Because that's when your mom wired $9,000 to studio bullshit for emergency renovations. I slammed the hood harder than necessary. You're not here for a tune-up. You're her insurance policy. His flinch confirmed everything. Emily had sent him, not to manipulate me, but to confirm I'd still bite when family called. I handed him a wrench. Hold this. As we worked, I showed him the receipts hidden under his seat, St. Regis room service charges dated during Emily's Cabo cleanse. Let him connect the dots between ceviche appetizers and our drained college fund. Watched his hands shake realizing his tuition money bought margaritas for the woman teaching him to hate me. Why'd you leave? He finally asked, voice cracking. The answer sat in my throat like a piston ring. Because your mother's lies funded her sister's scams. Because staying would have meant watching them destroy you next. Instead, I yanked the corrupted fuel injector, etched with Studio A-Class logo. Ever seen this? Jake palmed the part, recognition dawning. There, in N.M. supply closet. She said they were for some VIP client. VIP client. My ass. The injector's serial number matched the fraudulent invoice I'd found in Anna's gym bag, the one billing me $1,200 for marriage counseling. I let Jake keep the injector as a paperweight. Next time Emily offers you freebies, I said, firing up the repaired engine. Check for strings attached. He left with a truck that ran cleaner than his aunt's conscience and a USB drive hidden in his cup holder. Every spreadsheet, photo, and smoking gun they'd think twice before threatening my kid again. The GPS tracker went into my pocket. Emily wanted to monitor my movements? Fine. Tomorrow, it'd take a scenic tour of every pawn shop, strip club, an IRS field office in the tri-state area. Family first. Revenge a close second. The truth arrived via bulk mail, Studio Eclas, grand opening flyer buried under coupons for oil changes. Emily's grinning face dominated the glossy paper, arm slung around a tanned meathead I recognized from Anna's deleted Peloton followers. Marco. Personal trainer. Amateur mixologist. Full-time gigolo. I cross-referenced Marco's LLC filings with Anna's Venmo history. $2,400 payments every Friday labeled consulting fees coincided with Marco's workouts at our guest house. The kicker? Studio Eclas business license listed him as co-owner, approved 3 days after Anna's first investment. Jake found me elbow deep in the Bronco's fuel tank, fishing out a melted USB drive. She tried to recruit me too, he said, tossing a crumpled check on my workbench. Emily's loopy signature demanded $20,000 for a can't-miss opportunity. Dated 2 weeks before his high school graduation. Promised me 50% returns if I cashed my college fund early. Jake's laugh sounded like a backfiring engine. Told her I'd rather invest in Beanie Babies. The USB yielded security footage, Emily coaching Marco through our backyard fence last July. Tell her the salon's doubling profits, she hissed, adjusting his shirt collar. And for Christ's sake, stop using her credit card at the Golf Pro shop. I froze the frame on Marco's wristwatch, a Rolex Daytona I'd pawned after Jake's appendectomy. Anna had sworn she'd lost it. They played you both, I said, handing Jake a crowbar. Time to see how deep the rot goes. We tore through Studio Eclas back office after hours, Jake's forklift training proving handy for cracking Emily's rose gold safe. Inside, invoices for $500 bottles of champagne billed as hair serum, fake Yelp reviews printed on Anna's stationery, and a notarized letter pledging our house as collateral for Marco's Porsche lease. The piece de resistance? A flowchart titled Exit Strategy with Anna's name circled in red. Dated 6 days before I found the hotel key. Jake stared at the damning paper trail, knuckles whitening around a photo of Marco and Emily toasting at our anniversary dinner, her hand discreetly sliding him an envelope under the table. They were gonna bankrupt her, he whispered. Worse. I pointed to the flowchart's final note, a charity auction where Anna's inherited jewelry would have mysteriously disappeared. They needed her desperate enough to liquidate everything. We left the safe wide open, crime scene pristine except for 3 drops of synthetic oil on Emily's desk chair, the same blend from Jake's sabotage truck. Let her wonder how deep the intrusion went. Back at the garage, I showed Jake how to reroute encrypted funds through offshore accounts. Lesson 1, I said, watching him mirror my keystrokes. Never steal from a mechanic who built your empire. His grin in the blue monitor light was all vengeance and vanished innocence. What's lesson 2? I ejected the USB, still warm from exposing their sins. Always check your blind spots. The Bronco's rebuilt engine roared approval as we burned the flowchart and its exhaust manifold. Emily's grand design went up in carcinogenic smoke, each glowing ember a ticking clock toward her ruin. The confrontation happened in our old garage, the one where I'd proposed between oil changes and engine rebuilds. Anna stood haloed under the flickering fluorescent light she'd never let me replace, her new $800 highlights clashing with the duct-taped lawn chair she'd once called quaint. I let her speak first. Always let the guilty dig their own grave. Emily said you're blackmailing her, she began, clutching the heart-shaped locket I'd pawned my Harley to buy for our 10th anniversary. The same locket I'd repaired last Christmas after finding Emily's initials etched inside the clasp. She's family, Bryan. Whatever sick game you're playing. I cut her off with a button press on the Bronco's refurbished stereo. Emily's voice crackled through the speakers, tinny and venomous. The affair was just accelerant. We needed her desperate enough to liquidate Dad's estate. Anna's hand flew to the locket. I'd wired the microphone into its hinge months ago while fixing the broken chain. Remember when I gave her that ugly necklace? Emily's recorded laugh made the shop lights buzz. Every time she touches it, she's literally clinging to my lies. The color drained from Anna's face as the audio continued, Emily detailing how Marco's bedroom skills were secondary to his talent for forging loan documents. How the hotel key I'd found was planted during Anna's mandatory couples massage at Studio Eclas. You're editing this, Anna whispered, backpedaling into my tool chest. A wrench clattered to the floor, the same one Jake had used to remove her tracking device. I tossed her the locket's blueprints from Dad's safe. Check the serial number. Emily special ordered it through Marco's cousin's jewelry store. Paid extra to engrave her initials under the patina. She fumbled with the documents, manicured nails catching on the shipping manifest that proved Emily had the locket shipped to Marco's apartment first. The final blow came via projector, security footage of Emily swapping Anna's real locket for the bugged version during last year's Christmas Eve party. Why? Anna's voice broke as she stared at her sister on screen, slipping the manipulated jewelry into her coat pocket with surgeon's precision. "Dad's will," I said, revving the Bronco's engine to punctuate each word. The clause stating inheritance doubles if marital assets remain intact after 10 years. Emily couldn't risk us hitting the decade mark next month. Anna collapsed onto the oil-stained concrete, the locket springing open to reveal Emily's initials glowing under UV light, a trick I discovered while detailing the Bronco's dashboard. Her perfect life unraveled thread by thread, the affairs staged, the debts fabricated, the love letters pinned in Emily's handwriting. I killed the engine, letting silence hammer the truth home. "You weren't the mark, Anna. You were the weapon." When she reached for my boot, I stepped over her shattered silhouette and tossed the locket into the parts washer. Watched gold plating dissolve until only Emily's engraved initials remained, a skeletal confession swirling in chemical bile. "Keep the footage," I said, leaving her weeping between the tire racks. "Emily's sending a crew to repo your Mercedes tomorrow. You'll need evidence when they come for the rest." The Bronco's doors slammed like a judge's gavel. Let her eat the dust. The brake line snapped on Route 52, not by wear, but by surgical scoring. I felt the pedal go spongy halfway to the parts store, swerving into a ditch just as Emily's text arrived. "Next cut won't be your car." Attached, a photo of Jake's apartment building taken through a telephoto lens. I laughed until my ribs ached. She'd used piano wire. Amateur mistake. The jagged edges left on the severed line matched the same brand I'd found in Studio Ecla's supply closet, right next to the Brazilian blowout kits they'd been repackaging as organic. Two could play at sabotage. That night, I rebuilt the Bronco's entire brake system using Emily's own tools. Let her think I was rattled. Let her sip champagne while I replaced every hose with line-stamped property of Studio Ecla LLC. When the state investigator came sniffing tomorrow, they'd find her fingerprints all over the evidence, literally. The tax leak required finesse. I'd spent weeks doctoring her QuickBooks entries, inflating revenue numbers just enough to trigger an audit but not enough for her bookkeeper to notice. The piece de resistance? A ledger entry for Marco's Miracle Hair Tonic, showing $142,000 in sales to a Cayman Islands LLC. I packaged the files inside a hollowed-out alternator and delivered it to Tina, owner of Sheer Magic Salon and Emily's mortal enemy. Her nephew worked IRS collections. Her ex-husband ran the local news blog. The raid hit at 10:15 a.m. sharp. I watched from across the street in the Bronco, sipping gas station coffee as three unmarked sedans disgorged suits with clipboards. Emily stumbled out mid-highlight treatment, foil cape flapping like a wounded bird. "You psychotic bastard!" She screamed into her phone when I answered on the fourth ring. "They're seizing everything." Everything. I adjusted the rear view to watch Tina's crew hauling out boxes labeled tax documents. "Better check your storage unit." Heard the states expanding their search parameters. The guttural wail through the speaker told me she'd taken the bait. That unit held her real books, the ones showing $300,000 in unreported cash from Dad's estate. The ones I tipped off the investigator about using an anonymous email account linked to Marco's gym. By noon, Channel 9 news vans circled the block. By 3, Emily's face dominated Tina's community watchdog alert banner, smeared bleach cream and fury making her look like a deranged raccoon. I texted Jake a single photo, the severed brake line next to Emily's salon key. Lesson 3, never bring wire cutters to a torque wrench fight. His reply came as the Bronco 8 miles of open highway. "She just tried calling me." Sent her to voicemail. I cranked the stereo, Springsteen howling about redemption through the custom speakers. The taste of victory was gasoline and justice, sweet until I passed our old exit. The garage doors stood open when I circled back. Anna's Mercedes sat stripped to the frame, repo tags flapping in the wind. Emily's Bottega bag dangled from the rafters by its chain, stuffed with audit notices and foreclosure warnings. I left it swinging, a metronome counting down her ruin. Revving the engine, I wondered if Emily could hear the verdict in every piston's roar. Guilty. 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 The summons arrived via certified mail, and by mail, I mean stapled to the hood of her repossessed Mercedes with a framing nailer. Anna found me pressure-washing decades of grime from the Bronco's undercarriage. Her knockoff Uggs shuffling through runoff tinted the exact shade of Emily's seized salon chairs. "You look terrible," she opened, clutching a Starbucks cup like a talisman. The barista had misspelled her name as Anna. Poetic fucking justice. I adjusted the spray nozzle, aiming a jet of water at her designer knockoffs. Coming from the woman who wore sweatpants to our wedding rehearsal? I'll take that as a compliment. She dodged the spray, rallying with that wounded doe gaze that used to melt me. "We can fix this. Emily's gone. Marco's in Belize. It's just us again. Us." I killed the pressure washer, letting the word hang in the chemical-scented silence. "You mean the us that existed between your sister's lies and your lover's credit card bills?" Her hand trembled, splashing oat milk on the divorce papers I'd left in her glove box. "I'll do anything." I peeled off my work gloves, revealing the scar from her key card ambush. "Testify against Emily. Full disclosure on the inheritance scam. Or what?" Defiance flickered. Old Anna, the one who'd once thrown a torque wrench through our kitchen window. I yanked the tarp off the Bronco's passenger seat. Nestled in the springs, her mother's sapphire ring, the one Emily had lost during Dad's funeral. Beside it, a notarized affidavit from Marco detailing how Emily ordered him to seduce Anna after catching her snooping through Studio A-class books. Or I released the security footage of you forging Dad's signature on the loan docs. I tossed her the USB drive, watching it land in her pumpkin spice puddle. "Your choice, prison orange or witness protection chic." She stared at the ring, tears warping her Revlon eyeliner into Rorschach blots. "She's my sister. And you're Jake's mother." I revved the pressure washer again, drowning out her gasp. Funny how family works. The Bronco's radio crackled to life. A preset station playing, "I Will Survive." Couldn't have scripted it better. Anna reached for the affidavit, fingers brushing Marco's confession about spiking her Chardonnay with Xanax to ensure compliance. "If I do this, would you ever?" I slammed the hood, cutting her off with the clang of steel on steel. "The deal's on the table. Your latte's getting cold." She left the divorce papers soggy on my workbench, signature bleeding into a Rorschach smear. I waited until her Uber vanished to text Jake. "Package delivered." His reply came with a photo. Anna's Mercedes being loaded onto a flatbed, Emily's initials freshly keyed into the driver's side door. The Bronco's engine purred as I wired $50,000 to a Cayman Islands account under Marco's alias. Blood money well spent. Let him rot on a beach knowing his escape was bought by the man he'd tried to erase. Some deals aren't made to be kept. They're made to be broken, just like families. The open house smelled like fresh polyurethane and schadenfreude. I'd parked the Bronco center stage, its cherry red finish reflecting the disco ball I'd hung from the rafters, a middle finger to Emily's tasteful beige existence. Half of Dayton showed up, gearheads sipping PBR from oil cans, TikTokers hunting viral gold, even Anna lurking by the snack table wearing Jake's old college hoodie. Emily arrived fashionably late and spectacularly unhinged. I clocked her the second she tripped over the pneumatic line I'd left snaking across the entrance. Her disguise consisted of sunglasses big enough to eclipse her mugshot and a wig stolen from a 90s sitcom mom. "You think you've won?" she hissed, cornering me by the torque wrench display. The scent of day-old vodka and burnt hair wafted off her like cheap perfume. "I'll drag you through every court from here to—" I tapped the Bronco's hood twice. The custom stereo system kicked on, blasting her own voice through subwoofers I'd wired into the lift base. "Once Bryan finds the hotel key, wait 3 days before sending the divorce papers." Emily's recorded drawl froze the crowd mid-slider bite. Marco's got the forged text ready. "Remember, the goal is to make him snap first for the prenup clause." Her scream pierced the audio. "Turn it off." Too late. The memo continued, Emily coaching Anna on how to stage the affair, how to siphon inheritance funds, how to manipulate Jake into hating me. Every sickening detail amplified by surround sound. The crowd became her jury, phones raised like flaming torches. Emily lunged for the Bronco's battery cables. Bad move. I'd greased the door handles with Axle fluid. She slid face-first into the tire rack, wood capsizing to reveal bleach-damaged roots. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced over the PA, "meet the brains behind Studio A-Class 5-star help reviews." A teen influencer live-streamed Emily scrambling for her wig, shouting, "It's edited." "He's a psycho," while the Broncos screens displayed timestamped bank transfers between her account and Marco's. The coup de grace? A drone footage montage of her thriving salon playing on loop, empty chairs, IRS notices taped to mirrors, and the piñata full of shredded tax forms I'd left swinging in her office. By the time Emily fled, #ScissorhandsScammer was trending statewide. I handed out USB drives of the evidence disguised as keychains, watching TikTokers immediately plug them into their phones. Jake nodded from across the room, subtly adjusting the GoPro he'd hidden in the snack bar's neon sign. Anna approached as I hosed Emily's abandoned wig down the drain. Was this necessary? I aimed the nozzle at her shoes. "You tell me. That time you accidentally live-streamed us fighting during my birthday." Her flinch told me she'd forgotten the camera still rolling that night. The same camera that captured her laughing with Emily about my midlife crisis. The garage emptied with the buzz of 1,000 shares. I closed up shop using Emily's own crowbar, the one she'd thrown through my windshield last winter, now framed as a trophy above the register. Vengeance tastes best served cold, but viral? That shit's addictive. I found Emily's final text waiting at midnight. "I'll kill you." Attached, a screenshot of her Google reviews. 1 star. Wouldn't recommend. I toasted the Broncos' rearview mirror, watching hashtags bloom like poison ivy in the reflection. Some victories don't need applause. Just witnesses. The congratulatory bourbon arrived in a monogrammed decanter. Studio A-Class liquidation sale purchase. I drank it from a hubcap polished to mirror finish, my reflection warping with each sip. The garage's new neon sign flickered outside, Bryco Automotive blazing blood red across a fresh generation of suckers. Anna's notarized testimony came sealed with our old wedding wax stamp. Inside, page 17 bore a coffee ring in the shape of Lake Erie, same stain she'd cried over during our Niagara Falls honeymoon. Her loopy signature ended mid-flourish, ink bleeding where she'd hesitated. Smart girl. That particular clause granted me power of attorney over Emily's remaining assets, including the beach house Dad had willed her. The victory party raged in the showroom, mechanics and vultures toasting with coolant green Jell-O shots. I stayed in the parts warehouse, inventorying Emily's seized salon chairs. Their rhinestone studs matched the Broncos' new shift knob. Poetic, until I found the listening device taped under seat 12. Still paranoid, came Emily's garbled voice through the baby monitor I'd planted in her foreclosure notice pile. She was ranting to Marco's parole officer about framed evidence. I toasted her delusion with antifreeze margaritas. Jake appeared at midnight, backlit by the Broncos' bioluminescent underglow. "They're asking for you." "Let 'em ask." I uncrated Emily's confiscated champagne flutes, each etched with Studio A-Class logo. "Take these to the party. Tell them they're trophies." He lingered, fingering the subpoena sticking out of my toolbox. "Why'd you keep Mom's testimony?" "Same reason I kept your first lost tooth." I palmed the USB drive hidden inside Emily's engraved ice bucket. "Sentimentality's a bitch." The real answer glowed on my encrypted drive, security footage of Anna notarizing her statement. At 1 hour 23 minutes and 17 seconds, her pen taps Morse code against the table. Smart girl. I found the matching sequence in Emily's seized laptop. A hidden partition labeled contingency. Password, Anna's birthday. Inside, wire transfers to an offshore account even Marco didn't know about. The bourbon turned to acid. All this time, Anna had been skimming Emily's skim. I celebrated by torching Emily's salon chairs in the crusher, their pleather stench masking the truth. Let her sue. Let them all claw over scraps. Jake intercepted me post-incineration, reeking of regret and cheap beer. "They're calling you a hero. Heroes don't rig evidence." I tossed him Emily's melted listening device. "Found this in your truck's headrest last week." His flinch confirmed what the bug's frequency scanner had shown. 112.7 FM, same as his college radio show. The party died at dawn. I tallied receipts under the Broncos' ultraviolet lights, revealing every secret message Anna had left in highlighter on the testimony pages. Her confession glowed neon. Emily wasn't the mastermind, just the fall guy. The Mont Blanc pen-eyed poison with antifreeze rolled off the desk, cracking on concrete. I drank to the sound, Emily's decanter now housing her sister's lies. Victory, like engine grease, seeps deep and stains forever. Outside, the neon sign sputtered. One letter extinguished. Bryco became Bry_O, a fitting epitaph. The fight started with a spark plug. Jake found it lodged in the Bronco's intake manifold, a Bosch Platinum I'd specifically banned from my shop after Emily tried bribing my suppliers. He held it up like a murder weapon, grease smeared across the restraining order he'd been served that morning. Emily's doing, though the subpoena listed my garage as the plaintiff. Explain this. Jake's voice shook with the same tremor he'd had at 12, asking why Mom missed his baseball finals. I didn't look up from the alternator I was gutting. Your aunt's idea of insurance. Bullshit. The spark plug shattered against the tool chest, ceramic shards skittering into the oil drain. The PI found your fingerprints on the subpoena draft. You're using her playbook. The accusation hung between us, gasoline-scented and inevitable. I'd known this moment would come when I forged Emily's signature on the custody papers, when I'd strategically leaked Jake's location to her during his radio show's live stream. All to bait her into overplaying her hand. I'm fixing what she broke, I snapped, yanking the alternator's rotor free. By breaking me instead? He slapped a USB drive on the workbench, the label smeared with what looked like Cheeto dust. Found this in your safe. Thought it was more evidence against Mom. Turns out it's just me. The footage played without sound, security cam clips of Jake working late at the garage, laughing with customers, passed out over engine schematics. Each file meticulously dated and cross-referenced with Emily's known stalking patterns. You used me as bait. His voice cracked. Tracked my movements. Lied to my face. Sound familiar? I reached for the Bronco's keys, needing the engine's roar to drown him out. My hand closed around something sharper, the jagged spark plug fragment. You think Emily would have stopped at bankrupting us? I growled. She was coming for your future. Your kids' futures. I had to. Had to what? Become her. He kicked the alternator across the floor, copper wire unspooling like intestines. You rigged her downfall the same way she rigged yours. Only difference is she never pretended to care. The USB drive glinted between us. I'd forgotten saving those clips, nights Jake fell asleep mid-repair, muttering about physics exams. The time he'd drawn a hard in WD-40 on the Bronco's windshield after his first solo engine rebuild. He turned to leave, shoulders hunched against the ghosts of better memories. Jake. Save it. He paused at the exit, backlit by the neon sign's cancerous glow. Emily's in jail. Mom's a shell. And you? You're just empty. The door slammed. The Bronco's engine refused to turn over, dead battery, or maybe karma. I hurled the spark plug fragment at the security cam, watching the screen pixelate into static. The USB drive contained one last file I'd never seen, Jake's unsent voicemail drafts. Hours of him whispering, I miss my dad, into the void between midnight and ruin. I drank Emily's confiscated cognac that night, the bottle she'd saved for her victory party. Toasted the hollow man in the hubcap's reflection. Some engines can't be rebuilt, only scavenged for parts. The ambush came during a thunderstorm, appropriate, given how Emily's mascara ran like ink from a shattered pen. She materialized in the garage's side entrance, drenched and clutching a soggy Louis Vuitton diaper bag that reeked of spoiled milk and regret. Her knockoff designer trench coat hung open, revealing a threadbare, world's best mom tee stained with what I hoped was red wine. They took the kids, she rasped, hurling a Monopoly House token at my head. It bounced off the Bronco's fender, the same piece missing from our family game night set. Happy now? I continued buffing the custom grill, polishing the Bryco logo until it reflected her unraveling. Should have invested in better glue. Those hotel pieces always pop loose. Her scream merged with thunder as she lunged for my torque wrench. I bolted it to the workbench after Part 9's fiasco. She rattled the tool like a rabid animal, splintering a fingernail down to the quick. He's filing for full custody. She brandished a crumpled court order, the edges singed as if she'd tried burning it. Because of your fucking videos. I nodded toward the security feed playing above us, Footage of Emily coaching her daughter to lie about daddy's bad friends during a custody eval. The timestamp matched her husband's poker night. Funny how discovery works. Almost like someone mailed his lawyer the raw footage. Recognition dawned through her snarl. The USB drive I'd hidden inside her son's teddy bear during the salon raid. The one she'd gifted him for being brave while mommy works. "You monster," she whispered, clutching the diaper bag's embroidered initials, ES. Each letter stitched with hair extensions from Studio Ecla's dumpster. I unplugged the buffer, its dying whine slicing through her theatrics. Monster's a strong word from someone who used her toddler's piggy bank to bribe a notary. Her fist connected with the Bronco's hood, leaving a dent she could no longer afford to fix. "I'll tell everyone the truth. How you manipulated Jake. Forged evidence. You're no better than you." I yanked open the glove box, tossing her a Ziploc containing every lie she'd ever sold me. The fake therapist's letter justifying Anna's work trips, the doctored school forms claiming Jake needed pricey tutors, the love notes to Marco pinned on the back of her daughter's ballet recital programs. Differences: I own what I am. She collapsed against the tire rack, mascara pooling in the hollows of her collarbones. For a heartbeat, I saw the girl who'd once helped me rebuild Anna's carburetor, laughing, grease-smudged, human. Then she spat at my boots, her phlegm mingling with the synthetic blend I use for high-mileage engines. "You've destroyed everything." I crouched, eye level with her ruined highlights. "You did that the moment you traded family for a fucking tote bag." The Bronco's wipers thumped metronome slow as she fled into the storm, diaper bag spilling pacifiers and subpoenas. I salvaged one item from the puddle, her son's forgotten action figure, its plastic fist raised in eternal combat. Jake found me hours later, the figure dangling from the rear view like a war trophy. She's live streaming from the Marriott rooftop, threatening to jump. I revved the engine, drowning out his unspoken plea. "She won't." "How can you be sure?" The answer sat between us, oil-thick and indelible. Emily loved herself too much to become someone else's tragedy. As the Bronco ate mile markers, I realized revenge isn't the absence of guilt. It's the acceptance that some fires can't be contained. Let the world watch her burn. My reflection in the rain-smeared window showed a man forged in flamethrower heat. Not a hero, not a victim, just the mechanic who finally fixed what was broken. The job interview happened where our first kiss did, leaning against the Bronco's fender, except now its chrome bumper reflected Anna's thrift store sneakers instead of her white sundress. She'd attempted dignity via a knockoff pantsuit, but the frayed cuffs betrayed her. I made her wait while I finished degreasing a transmission filter, the solvent's acrid tang masking her old perfume. "I can manage the books," she blurted, clutching a resume printed on the back of Jake's middle school art project. "You know I'm good with numbers." I spat transmission fluid into a bucket labeled Customer Appreciation Special. "Numbers, sure. Ethics? Not so much." Her flinch was satisfying until I noticed the tremor in her hands, real, not performative. The same hands that once steadied mine during Jake's birth. "Minimum wage," I said, tossing her a sponge etched with Studio Ecla's logo, salvaged from Emily's bankruptcy auction. "You'll start with the bathroom. Toilet's been clogged since the open house." She stared at the sponge, thumb tracing the embroidered E she'd once envied. "This is beneath you." "Beneath you," I corrected, nodding at the mop bucket. "That's the point." The Bronco watched as she scrubbed decades of grime from the shop floor, its restored engine purring when she passed. I'd wired the garage speakers to play our wedding song on loop, Willie Nelson's always on my mind, but she never cracked. Not when her knees bled through cheap slacks. Not when customers recognized her. The trap sprung week 2. She found the vintage Zippo I'd lost under the lift, engraved to Bryan, burn bright always, A. Her gasp echoed off the rafters. "You kept it," she whispered, clutching the lighter she'd gifted me post-Jake's stillbirth. "Kept the tracking chip inside it, too." I activated the monitor, displaying her late-night Google searches for how to dispute asset forfeiture. "Emily teach you that trick? Or was draining my savings account practice?" The lighter clattered into the drain bucket. For a heartbeat, her mask slipped, revealing the chess player who'd once checkmated me in 7 moves. Then she resumed scrubbing, bloodying the sponge against concrete. I paid her in Susan B. Anthony dollars from Emily's seized safe. "For nostalgia," I said, watching her count each coin. "Remember when these were our Europe fund?" Her knuckles whitened around the silver. We'd buried a coffee can of these in the backyard after Jake's first seizure, swearing they'd only be spent on miracles. The final test came during a VIP client visit. I made her serve bourbon in Emily's confiscated champagne flutes, her reflection warping in the curved glass. She carried the tray like a penitent, back straight, eyes dead. The client, a divorce attorney, recognized her. "Didn't you used to be the help?" Anna filled his glass with double the poison she'd once slipped mine. "Still am." That night, I found her regrouting the bathroom tiles by cell phone light. The Zippo sat between us, its tracking chip now lodged in the drain. "You missed a spot," I said, pointing to the mortar shaped like Jake's childhood handprint. She attacked the crevice with a toothbrush, erasing the last trace of us. "Will there be anything else, Mr. Colton?" The title stung more than Emily's wire cutters. I almost revoked her keycard. Almost. Instead, I left her scrubbing under the Bronco's undercarriage, where our initials still hid, welded into the frame this summer before everything burned. Let her find them. Let her remember. The garage cameras caught her sobbing at 3:17 a.m. I saved the footage next to our wedding vows. Some fires need tending, even if only to watch them consume what's left. The crying started at 2:04 a.m., not the performative sniffles from her witness stand days, but guttural heaves that shook the brake fluid racks. I found Anna curled beneath the Bronco's undercarriage, her knockoff work boots kicked off to reveal socks I recognized, fuzzy reindeer from our last non-disastrous Christmas. She'd chosen her stage well, our initials still hid in the frame's shadow, welded there during that summer we'd converted the garage into a makeshift honeymoon suite. Still checking for rust? I aimed my flashlight at her face, knowing she'd hate the unflattering angle. She shielded her eyes with a hand missing its wedding band. "I loved you." The words slithered out raw, no lawyerly precision. "Before. I just couldn't breathe." I crouched, asphalt biting through my Carhartts. The scent of her drugstore shampoo mixed with the Zippo fluid I'd spilled earlier, cheap vanilla and regret. "Funny. You seemed plenty oxygenated at the Marriott." Her sob hitched into something resembling a laugh. "Emily said you'd never leave. That I'd die here. Here meaning our marriage. Our garage." The life she'd once toasted with champagne I later learned she'd charged to Emily's salon account. I almost reached for her. Almost. Then the flashlight beam caught it, the glint of Jake's stolen Hot Wheels car wedged in her back pocket. A '67 Bronco replica. Last seen in his childhood bedroom. "Find what you were looking for?" I nodded at the toy, watching her cheeks flush burgundy. She pulled it free, fingers trembling. "He gave this to me. Last week." "Bullshit." I plucked the toy, flipping it to reveal the GPS dot I'd superglued underneath after catching Emily snooping. "This has been magnetized to my parts fridge since May." The realization unspooled her, not the lies, but being caught. Again, her shoulders crumpled against the lift post. "I just wanted something real. Real." I spat the word into the oil drain, watching it float atop the iridescent sludge. "You want real." The Bronco's glove box yielded my trump card. Polaroids from our lean years. Anna 8 months pregnant, laughing as she repurposed Emily's hideous bridesmaid dress into shop rags. Me teaching Jake to change tires before he could ride a bike. Real. She reached for the photos like a sinner for holy water. I yanked them back, thumb finding the micro-camera lens hidden behind the Bronco's airbag sticker. Let her lawyers subpoena this moment, another confession captured. "You want real." I tore the photos down the middle, stuffing her half into the parts washer. Dig through the toxicity like the rest of us. The Hot Wheels car went into the crusher, its metallic scream drowning her apology. I left her clutching photo fragments under our welded initials, the garage cameras documenting every tremor. At dawn, I'd review the footage. Again and again, until the woman in the recording became a stranger, and the ache in my chest calcified into something resembling peace. Some walls aren't built to keep others out. They're there to remind you what happens when you let them in. The trophy weighed less than the lug nuts I'd hand-torqued onto the Bronco's winning rims, but its chrome-plated wrench design left grease prints on my palms that no amount of hand sanitizer could erase. The crowd's applause still buzzed in my teeth when Jake materialized by the fuel pumps, clutching a grease-stained manila envelope like it contained anthrax. "Nice speech," he said, nodding at the stage where I'd thanked every backstabber except family. "Real touching how you mentioned Mom's sacrifices." The envelope disgorged its contents under the Bronco's showroom lights, a Polaroid from '09. Me mid-laugh, arm slung around a 12-year-old Jake as he helped repaint Anna's sedan. Our matching Bryco crew shirts glowed radioactive orange under the garage's old blacklight. Anna hovered at the edge of the frame, fingers brushing my shoulder while holding the camcorder that had later captured Emily's first innocent visit. "Found it in the attic," Jake said, tapping the photo's lower left corner. A tiny skull sticker from his emo phase adorned the shop fridge, right above the dent from when he'd kicked it post-seizure, furious at his own frailty. "This is the dad I drove 6 hours to remember." The trophy's wrench emblem dug into my palm. I'd crafted those shirts from Anna's hideous bridesmaid dress after Emily's wedding, the fabric still stinking of her peach schnapps perfume. That man got played for a fool. Jake stepped closer, the Bronco's reflection fracturing his face across the windshield. He loved us enough to try. The accusation hung between us, gasoline-scented and true. I'd rebuilt this machine to factory specs, yet couldn't replicate the version of me who'd once prioritized bedtime stories over torque specs. "Your mom's scrubbing toilets," I said, deflecting. "That the family reunion you want?" He flinched, gaze dropping to the trophy's engraving. "Bryco Automotive, best in show. You turned our life into a goddamn exhibit." The crowd's laughter swelled as Emily's estranged husband toasted my win with bourbon I'd spiked with coolant. Jake melted into the sea of polished hoods and hollow accolades, leaving the Polaroid impaled on the trophy's spike. Midnight found me hunched in the Bronco's cab, flashlight revealing what I'd missed, the faint outline of Anna's finger tracing my shoulder in the photo. Not possessive. Protective. A warning I'd been too busy rebuilding engines to decode. The trophy now resides in the parts washer, its chrome dissolving into the solvent where our initials once floated. Some legacies aren't meant to be displayed, just buried, quietly, where only rust can judge. The gun jammed on the first pull should have guessed from the rust blooming across its barrel like botched highlights. Emily materialized between a '68 Mustang and a vegan food truck, her aim wobbling between me and the Bronco's fuel tank. The crowd scattered, phones up, hungry for carnage. "Smile for the cameras," she shrieked, clawing at the slide. Her blazer sleeve rode up, revealing track marks from the Botox she'd been injecting with stolen syringes. "You think you've won? I'll take it all down with you." The tackle felt clinical. No adrenaline surge, just the mechanical precision of a man who'd spent decades aligning chassis frames. My shoulder connected with her ribs, same spot Marco's Porsche had T-boned Jake's truck. She crumpled like a warranty-voided fender, the gun skittering into the vegan nacho cheese vat. "You lost," I murmured against her ear, pinning her wrist with the handcuff key she'd hidden in her hair extensions, "the day I stopped caring if you lived." Her scream curdled the air, all rot and desperation. The cops arrived to find me methodically inventorying her pockets, a hotel keycard from our anniversary weekend, Jake's stolen baby tooth, and the real kicker, my old wedding band threaded onto a choke chain collar. "Evidence," I said, dropping the items into an oil rack. The officer's body cam caught Emily's confession as she thrashed. "He made me do it." The Broncos cursed. The truth was simpler. I'd filed down the firing pin last week while she slept in the garage loft, her vodka bottle laced with enough melatonin to down a Clydesdale. Some habits die harder than marriages. Jake watched from the Bronco's cab, the family Polaroid now taped over the bulletproof glass I'd installed after Part 12. His reflection mouthed, "Why?" as they hauled Emily away. The answer sat in my breast pocket, a flash drive of her prison-bound screeching, already queued for tomorrow's viral upload. Let the world dissect her madness. Let them dissect mine. The trophy stand became a memorial by dawn, strangers leaving bourbon miniatures and bullet casings. I poured one out into the Bronco's intake manifold, watching ethanol flames lick the dawn. Detachment, I've learned, isn't the absence of feeling. It's the acceptance that some engines only run on ashes. Emily's mugshot hit the news as I torched her choke chain in the crusher. The flames smelled like closure and burnt hair. I didn't stay to watch. The Bronco's engine turned over, clean and cold. Some victories don't need witnesses, just open road and the certainty that nothing left can hurt you. The studio lights baked my retinas hotter than the Bronco's engine block mid-overhaul. The perky anchorwoman, call me Becky, adjusted her earpiece like she was tuning a carburetor, oblivious to the family photo I duct-taped under her desk. Jake's childhood grin glared up from between her Louboutins, a landmine waiting for the right question. Viewers are calling you a hero, Becky chirped, cue cards crinkling. Behind her, a montage played of Emily's arrest footage spliced with the Broncos award win. They'd added a damn superhero emblem in post-production. How does that feel? The teleprompter scroll suggested I smile here. Instead, I palmed the trophy chunk dissolving in my pocket, chrome flakes mixing with lint, and Emily's safe deposit key. Feels like swapping a blown gasket for a cracked block. You're still stranded. Becky's Botox faltered. Cut to commercial, the crew mouthed. She leaned in, mic picking up her whisper. The producer wants a soundbite about forgiveness. I stared into camera 3 Cyclops eye, its red light throbbing like the exit sign over Jake's hospital room. The one I'd stared at during his meningitis scare while Anna sobbed into Emily's shoulder. Forgiveness is premium fuel in a rusted tank. I dropped the trophy shard on the desk, solvent eating through the faux wood veneer. Burn clean for a mile. Then choke on the residue. The photo escaped during the next segment, fluttering onto Becky's lap mid-question about legacy. Freeze frame of 12-year-old Jake mid-laugh became Primetime's Rorschach test. Is this your son? Becky's nail tapped Jake's face. Does he share your pride in bringing Emily Anders to justice? The studio AC kicked on, wafting the scent of synthetic lemon in Anna's bleach-burned hands. I saw it then, the shadow behind camera 2. Jake's stance, arms crossed, watching from the wings. Justice. The word tasted like antifreeze. You know what's parked off camera? A 67 Bronco with 3 bullet holes in the driver's side. No, what's not? My son. Becky's cue cards fluttered. The director's scream pierced my earpiece. We're live. I stood, the family photo clinging to my boot. Heroes get parades. Survivors get ghosts. Ask me which one keeps you up nights. The walkout made headlines. Not the trimmer in my hands as I passed Jake, not the Polaroid shredding underfoot. They aired the clip of me pausing at exit signs, the red glow mirroring the Broncos' taillights as I'd fled every meaningful moment. At 3 a.m., drunk on Emily's confiscated absinthe, I played the interview on loop. Rewound the nanosecond where my reflection in Becky's desk revealed the truth, Jake's shadow turning away, shoulders slumped like they'd borne the weight of both our failures. The Broncos' engine started with a backfire that shattered the garage windows. I let it idle, exhaust fogging the security monitors until every screen showed static. Heroes don't get endings. They get sequels. But the man in the rearview? He's fresh out of lines. The check cleared on a Tuesday, $287, $509.62 from Emily's liquidated beach house, donated to a veterans workshop that teaches combat vets engine repair. I endorsed it with the same Mont Blanc that once signed our divorce papers, the antifreeze poison nib bleeding ink like a fresh wound. The foundation director's thank you note arrived pre-smeared with synthetic grease, Jake's fingerprints on the envelope flap. The garage breathes differently now. Emily's seized salon chairs make decent engine stands. Anna's mop water swirls with flakes of the trophy I dissolved last week. I keep the Broncos' keys on Emily's confiscated choke chain, the metal teeth gnawing my thigh with every rev. Tonight's project? Retrofitting Jake's stolen Hot Wheels car into a turbo boost gauge. The tiny 67 Bronco glows under black light, its hollow chassis concealing the unsent letter I found taped to the shop fridge, Jake's chicken scratch plea for family therapy, dated the day after Emily's arrest. The engine's roar shakes loose a Polaroid fragment from the rafters. Half of Anna's smile floats into the solvent tank, dissolving alongside my wedding band. I let the RPMs climb until the walls vibrate with the pitch of a scream that's equal parts triumph and surrender. Outside, a news van lingers, hungry for sequels. Let them film the smoke. Let them diagnose the silence between each thunderous rev. The Broncos' headlights catch Jake's shadow in the alley, watching. Waiting. I downshift into the night, trailing exhaust that smells like closure and scorched oil. Some silences aren't meant to be broken. Just drowned out, mile by the work of rebuilding what can still move forward.